So a massive welcome to tonight's session, which is titled 2021 COVID World Crypto Future. I think I know a lot of people that are listening live. I know a lot of people listen again. So I'm Catherine Wooler. I'm Managing Director for Dacxi in the UK and Ireland, and I'll be hosting this evening. So we've got some amazing speakers tonight who I'm absolutely thrilled can join us. And I'll be doing my Parkinson bit to ask them some pertinent questions about the crypto industry right now, where it's going, how it's part of all our futures post-COVID, and really how and why retail investors can profit from that change. So I know we've got a lot of people listening live. I think we had over 100 people sign up. We also broadcast over social media, and I know that we get a lot of people catching up on Listen Again. So a quick bit of housekeeping. I'm sure that we're all Zoom experts, particularly in the UK since lockdown. You should notice there's a chat function. We'll use that quite a lot this evening. Please do use it whilst the speakers are talking. I'm going to have a sort of question and answer session for each speaker. They've all got slightly different takes on the industry. So whilst they're talking, if you think of a question, please do pop it in the chat. I'm going to moderate, so I'll make sure that we ask them some interesting questions. So just to make sure the chat is working, could I ask you all just to say hi by giving us your name and also where you're listening from? I know we've got people from all over the world. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you're listening. So a quick run through the agenda. I'll do a quick introduction. We've got some amazing speakers. Ian Taylor, who's the chair of Crypto UK, which is the trade body for crypto in the UK. We've got Monty Mumford, which I've now realised I've actually spelled your name wrong there as well, so I'm really sorry about that, who's co-founder of a DeFi network called Sienna. We've got Ed Ludbrook, who is a crypto futurist and CEO of Dacxi, and then some closing remarks. So a jam-packed agenda. So quick disclaimer, the information over this presentation is not investment advice, trading advice or financial advice. Rather, it is a bit of an overview of the crypto industry where we're at the moment, and hopefully it will be education and inspiration. So it falls on me to give the introduction for today, which I am really thrilled to do. I think it's very true to say that we're in some very sort of challenging times right now. My day job is growing the business in the UK, which is currently in hypergrowth. The demand for crypto is absolutely staggering. At Dacxi, we've done more business in the first 7 weeks of this year than we did in the first 6 months of last year. It's worth mentioning the vast majority of our business actually comes from retail investors who are completely new to crypto. So we specialize in people that have literally heard about crypto, they're curious and they're looking to get involved. So in fact, this week alone, we've been nominated in the top 50 fintechs by TechCrunch, which I'm really proud of. So I personally spend a lot of time writing for the press about crypto, as do a number of our other speakers. I talk about what prices are doing, where they're going, who's buying crypto and why. I've also got a book on Amazon that I co-authored. I'm intending on putting another one out at some point this year. And I've personally been nominated for Crypto Awards. So hopefully I'm well placed to talk to you a little bit as an introduction about what's going on. So personally, I see COVID on a number of levels. I think in the UK, we're about a year in. I know for those of you that are listening from Asia, you're a little bit ahead of us. You're also probably out of it, unlike, unfortunately, the UK. So I think we've probably spent something like 9 months of the last 12 on some sort of lockdown. So I think we have to acknowledge it is a dreadful disease. I can't imagine many people on this call don't know someone that's died from it. We're well in excess of 100,000 deaths in the UK. It's been horrendous for keeping families apart, kids off school, job losses, of course, the effect on everyone's mental health. So I'm very respectful of the carnage it's caused, not least because I'm trying to homeschool and work full time. So I think really from my point of view, COVID is really the black swan event to end all black swan events. The World Economic Forum estimates the final total cost for COVID globally will be somewhere between $8 and $15 trillion. So it's just an absolutely eye-watering amount of money. It's a bizarre sort of size of number to try and get your head around. The UK cost last year, I don't think we've quite got as far as totting up this year, was in excess of 200 billion. 127 billion of that alone was the NHS. So that is the healthcare cost of treating our population. We spent 66 billion on supporting businesses, quite rightly, to make sure that those businesses survive. And we also saw 100 billion less paid in tax because of, unemployment. People are paying less income tax. We're spending less, so obviously there's less VAT. Businesses, of course, are paying less in their corporation tax because profits are lower. So I think really the pain for COVID is not going to be a short-term situation by any means. And I think, there's a lot of chat that we may or may not be back to normal in the UK by midsummer. So there's a huge bill to pay. The Institute for Fiscal Studies said in a think tank that they estimate we're going to need tax rises of around 40 billion to pay the bill. In fact, their attitude to increase taxes was, I quote, all but inevitable. So obviously we've got a budget coming up really soon. I think it will make interesting reading. It is my opinion that you will see negative interest rates and of course increased tax. I don't think that's top secret. And particularly capital gains tax in line with income tax, which will make particularly crypto through pension and ISA routes, I think, very attractive. So I think there's a lot more pain to come. I think a lot of the furloughing has masked what's going to be some high unemployment, and expect to see some high inflation. So the bill for COVID, to be clear, is comparable to our previous world wars. And we were still paying for World War I as recently as 2014. So I think if anyone thinks the COVID economic ramifications are going shortly, that's probably unrealistic. But there is some good news. COVID as a black swan event, you would expect to see substantial social and economic change. Obviously, the politicians have used the word unprecedented more than enough, I think we can agree. But most black swan events do create substantially faster change. So the main one, of course, is that our global economy is so far up poop creek, people have to consider what was previously unthinkable. I think intellectually, people are a lot more open to the idea of crypto now than they probably were this time last year. So whether it's banks who wouldn't previously touch crypto with a barge pole, they're now embracing it. We probably estimate that around a third of financial institutions own it. A good example of that is BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager. Their chief investment officer is praising crypto and also confirming they're involved. And you see a lot of the investment banks offering the custody of crypto assets to institutional investors. So organizations like BNY Mellon and Deutsche Bank, BNY Mellon is referred to as the bank of banks, and it's the world's largest custodian. So people like that sort of coming into the industry really helps institutional investors, which of course drives prices for retail investors. And look, those organizations are not on board for what they think will be a flash in the pan. You've all seen lots of corporates, Tesla, MicroStrategy and Square, of course, are switching significant proportions of their treasury from cash into crypto. I really personally like the rumors that Amazon and Apple are about to follow. And look, you'll see what's arguably some of the world's most valuable and most successful businesses switching from cash to crypto. I quite like MicroStrategy. Their attitude was that cash was a melting ice cube because of the potential of near-term inflation. And really, it only takes a few percentage of the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250 or the S&P, a few percent moving a few percent of their cash into crypto will just send it into the stratosphere. So obviously you see that reflected at a retail level. Big payment businesses are on board, whether it's Visa, MasterCard or PayPal, of course, who provided crypto over the summer. And COVID has, in my opinion, effectively killed cash. And actually, I'm quoted as saying that in the FinTech Times today. So if you look at retail investors in the UK, Dacxi and many other exchanges, unsurprisingly, have seen a massive uptick in business. And in the US, there was some great feedback on, they had these stimulus checks. So sort of checks went out for about $1,000 to sort of help get the economy kick-started. And lots of the exchanges saw people depositing exactly the amount of their stimulus check, which I think is fantastic. You look at the prices over the last year, that's probably been quite a sensible thing to do with it. So in my opinion, crypto today, where we are right now at early 2021, is like the dawn of the internet. And I think COVID has sped up that process by 5 to 10 years. And hopefully the speakers that we've got today will give you a lot more substance around that. So look, Ian, if I could just ask you to unmute yourself. I'm just going to shuffle a few bits of paper. Just lost Ian.
There you go.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, it's that horrible moment where I'm not sure if you're around. So look, I just wanted to introduce Ian really quickly. I'm so thrilled Ian is here. So Ian is chair of Crypto UK, which is the trade body for crypto in the UK. So he represents a huge number of crypto businesses. So he's a well-known and well-respected advocate for crypto businesses in the UK, presenting themselves globally. He's got a 20-year career as an investment banker. He's had senior roles across trading, treasury and risk management with industry names such as Santander, Barclays and West LB. And Ian today is still actually one of the rare people that has a foot in traditional investment banking and in crypto, because of course he retains a day job at Barclays when he's not busy working with Crypto UK. So I know he's hugely passionate about the industry and the many benefits that crypto brings to society. And as part of his role with Crypto UK, he represents the voice of the industry with discussions amongst other people, the FCA, Her Majesty's Treasury, HMRC. So he really is quite an important guy in the industry. So thank you so much, Ian, for joining us. So look, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, I know I've talked a bit about Crypto UK and what it does, but look, can you talk about why you thought Crypto UK was needed, what it does and what your intentions are for the industry for the rest of this year, please?
Sure. Well, if I may start with the birth of Crypto UK, which as you rightfully said is a trade body, and a trade body is there really for a couple of main reasons. That's one, to advocate for fair and balanced regulation, and secondly, to act on its members' behalf for a number of issues. So we were established in early 2018, post the ICO boom. We're not for profit. We currently have over 50 members. We're looking to increase this as adoption really increases this year. And so our vision is, we believe in the underlying technology of blockchain and the native crypto assets that are born out of the blockchain to potentially transform the UK's financial service industry. And our main mandate is to promote accountability and self-governance, educate, inform, and advocate, as I said, and engage with a number of different participants, whether it be UK-based or global participants. And so to specifically answer your question, Catherine, around why it's needed, well, I think what most people will know that blockchain technology is relatively new, and crypto assets are a part of that. They use the underlying technology. And so this ecosystem has only been around 11 years since Bitcoin was born. And there's been some developments, and it's really sort of picked up speed in the last few years. And so what we've seen is increased adoption, not just from individuals and institutions, but market participants. There's growing members, whether they provide services, whether they provide custody, whether they're an exchange like yourselves. And so the government can't obviously not take a look at this, because the government has a remit to, one, protect consumer risk, and also to fight economic crime such as money laundering and terrorist financing. So we're the only trade body in the UK active for this industry, and because we've seen some regulatory developments in the last year or so, and I can get onto that a bit later, it's vitally important that there is a trade body which acts as a bridge, if you like, between the private sector and the public sector. And we believe as a trade body that it's the voice of a community is stronger than the individual when it comes to this advocacy work.
Sure. And apart from, because obviously we're quite new as an industry, aren't we? I'm on my third blockchain business. I'll be hearing from Ed, who's I think 5-6 years into his crypto career. What sort of challenges do you think the businesses in crypto are facing right now? I know you mentioned regulation, but obviously you're talking to members every day, not just me, across a massive variety of crypto businesses. What's kind of the typical complaints, if there are such a thing?
Well, I don't want to talk too much about the current FCA money laundering regime. That's the main complaint that we have right now. And so if I may just sort of talk about how the UK is positioning itself as a place for crypto businesses to set up. So we have this, if you like, 3 pillars of regulation that are here and are coming. So money laundering. So all companies in the UK have to apply to the FCA if they want to do business. They have to be approved for this application. That's in play right now. That is proving very, very troublesome and difficult for a number of reasons. I won't bore the listeners too much, but it's really down to the amount of applications that were received. The FCA originally forecast 80, and we know that approximately 200 have been received. You compare that to, say, France, which received some 40 applications for its money laundering. And this we're not alone in the UK. All European countries have to do this because it's a European directive, so-called Anti-Money Laundering Directive 5, that was transposed before Brexit into UK law. So that's in play right now. And not only do you have smaller businesses who perhaps they don't have the expertise or the resources to be able to reach what is a high bar that the FCA is setting, you also have folks at the FCA who are, one, understaffed, and COVID has impacted that as well. We know 20% of resources have been pulled onto other such projects, such as the lending initiatives and increased scams that have taken place. And a lot of the folks at the FCA don't understand the business models of crypto businesses. So we have this double whammy where it's taking a long time to process these applications. So that's a big problem. So that's the main thing I hear from folks in the community. And then there's such things as the financial promotions regulation, which the consultation closed last year. So all crypto businesses will have to get any advertising signed off. This is a good thing from protecting the consumer, but also on the flip side is cumbersome and results in the smaller firm having to do a lot of extra work, resource, cost, time to get these adverts signed off. So we hear that from the community that is going to be an issue, and that's rolled out. And then the third pillar that we've seen is the current consultation that's open. So this is really, the UK is just going for a wait and see. Let's look to what other jurisdictions do. Let's be clear that we're protecting against economic crime, we're protecting against bad promoting of misleading information, and also we're going to bring stable coins. And they're calling it stable tokens, and these are only going to be stable tokens that are used for payments in the UK. We don't see any of this right now, so I don't know of anybody that's using Tether to buy a coffee. This is really for Facebook in their team and other such platforms that are huge. So the other things I would mention are issues would be around the fear of further regulatory perimeter coming. We did a member survey, and 89% of our respondents said that they believe more regulation will come this year, which is somewhat in contrast to what we've seen Treasury say, where they're going to just take a step back and they've given us clarity what's going to be regulated in the UK, and they're going to sort of hand over some power to the FCA and the Bank of England if needed, because we know this industry is dynamic, and so they want to be able to react to issues when they arise.
Look, that's great. I'm sorry, it's probably a bit harsh to ask you to summarize everything everything going on in crypto within sort of a 2-minute slot, but that sounds like the great news is that the UK is a hotbed for crypto, and even better news that the FCA is providing the consumer protection. And I don't think anyone that's been in crypto 3, 4, 5 years could deny that at one point crypto was like the Wild West. So if we can have a really firm regulatory framework, takes out all the players in the market that are less reputable. For me, as a player in retail investors in crypto, I sort of see that as a good thing. So can I just ask you, what do you think will happen in the broad crypto market this year? I know you can't name names, but I know you talked about you've got quite a bit of institutional interest for crypto UK. So could you just talk about what you sort of see coming down the line for the industry broadly? I know you talked about regulation, but just in terms of sort of some of the success you think you might find for crypto as industry broadly this year, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it in your intro comments, Catherine. This year for me, or this 2020, was the tipping point where we saw institutional involvement, and you mentioned Elon Musk, and Tesla and his comments, and PayPal and BlackRock, and it just has tipped over into everybody wants to assign a little piece of their portfolio, whether they're a retail investor or corporate, into a digital asset, whether it's Bitcoin or other tokens. So what we are doing now at Crypto UK is talking to potential institutional members, and this is new for us. We've just rolled out a new membership tier specifically for this and onboarding our first institutional member. And it's not just financial institutions, it's every other service provider that is getting business out of the industry, whether it be lawyers who are advising on some of these application processes, or lawyers that are advising on taxation when you've got projects such as Tesla or the Ethereum Foundation or Polkadot that have these models where they offshore the foundation and then you put the IP somewhere else. So that's a big development we're seeing. So we're talking of lots of legal firms and other service companies and accountants and and fund managers and supports to fund managers and all these types of folks. So the regulatory clarity, the industry has been asking for this for years. I'm sure you've all been to trade shows and exhibitions over the last few years where there's some panel talking about we need regulatory clarity. Well, guess what? It's here, right? It's not just here in the UK, it's here in Europe, it's here in the US, it's here in Asia. And with that brings this mass adoption. So what I sort of forecast is greater adoption from both sides. For you as a retail space, I would love to see some regulated products, whether it be an ISA, whether it be an ETF. We know that the UK banned, which we didn't advocate for, obviously, retail derivatives or derivatives that were referencing crypto assets for retail consumers, and also exchange traded notes. But I don't think an exchange traded fund, when one gets launched, and I know a lot of people are working on it, would fall into that because they have slightly different credit risk profiles. Let me just finish up the answer with banking relationships. This has been a real problem in the UK. No banks would touch a crypto business, and they still won't at this point in time. But what I believe will happen is, with these regulations, especially the money laundering regulations that are coming across Europe, is that banks will take a different approach to their risk profile. And also, to that point, there are a number of providers, as you well know, Clearbank, BCB, who are also members, Modular and Rails Bank, that are crypto friendly. So we're seeing this growth in the ability for crypto business to obtain the services that they perhaps weren't, because unfortunately, and this is a lot of work we do, and I know you do, and educate not just the public and the retail consumer, but also senior politicians that make the policy. This is sort of our remit, is crypto isn't just used by criminals. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think we've now got an ecosystem, haven't we? And I probably that word's a bit cheesy and is a bit overused, but I always say, 2-3 years ago, the crypto industry was some slightly weird people in back bedrooms, just individuals looking at crypto and talking about it. Now you've got a formal established ecosystem. And I always refer to crypto as the fastest growing and most dynamic industry in the world, in my opinion. So look, I think it's sort of far time we got taken seriously. So look, I've got a few questions coming to me privately, Fred. If you've got any more, please just jot them down so I can refer them to him. So look, just a very quick sort of 30-second roundup. If you were talking to a retail crypto investor, of course you can't give financial advice, but what do you think we should be telling retail investors? What should they be expecting this year?
From the good question. Yes, so for your customers that want to allocate some of their portfolio to crypto, first and foremost, what I always say is, please do some due diligence. Do some research as to what you're buying and whom you're buying it from. All of our members at Crypto UK work with the regulators and really do good work to ensure that people don't lose money and don't get taken advantage of. Crypto is highly technical. It brings together a number of concepts: maths, economic game theory, computer science, and there's lots of good resource out there to sort of get a basic understanding of some of these concepts. And for me, it's really exciting to sort of learn and go with the sort of rate of change and development in the industry. And the movement could fundamentally change the way that we transfer value as a society. You can see organizational structures changing, whether it's decentralized autonomous organizations, how we execute a whole manner of daily transactions, how we send cross-border payments, how we invest our wealth in decentralized platforms, and perhaps decide to participate in the governments of said platforms. And there's also the whole security token space, which hasn't really done much lately, but we know that things are happening. So every investor can, at some point, who perhaps wasn't capable of investing in certain underlying assets, will be able to fractionalize everything: vintage cars, art. And so your customers actually will have the ability to be able to grow their wealth, perhaps in a way that they weren't. And this is here today. This year we will see a massive development in this space.
Oh, thanks. So look, just to recap, do your homework, do your due diligence, find some education. Dacxi and other companies do that. Check that whoever you're dealing with is part of Crypto UK. I presume there's a list on the website, so you can check on Crypto UK who's under your umbrella. So look, thank you so much, Ian. He's a very important and very busy man, so I really appreciate you joining us. Well done on choosing to go first. Oh, I put you first, so you can go and have a glass of wine now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for
Thanks,
listening, guys. Thank you.
So let me just go back to this. So Monty, I can see you're there, and I think if you just unmute yourself, just introduce Monty, who's our next speaker. So Monty is co-founder of a decentralized finance company called Sienna Network. Had to work quite hard to get that out. So he's quite well known in crypto circles. So he has a very famous crypto podcast. He writes a weekly crypto column, which you can find in the London newspaper City AM. So certainly daily fodder for commuters when they're out there. He's also previously written for Forbes as a tech columnist, The Telegraph, the BBC, The Economist, and the FT. So second only to his impressive beard is his amazing career as a speaker and moderator. He's worked for over 200 different tech events all over the world, working with great names, including Kim Kardashian, Steve Wozniak, and of course now Dacxi. So hi, welcome Monty, nice to see you. Let me just take your slide away so we can see your lovely face and your big beard. Welcome, thank you for joining us. So look, I wanted to, I think you come at crypto from a slightly different point of view than Ian, which is great, it's still valuable. So look, tell me what major trends you expect to see this year, please.
Well, I think Ian, who looks remarkably like my son's godfather and wears the same type of clothes, he's put me off everything that he said because he looks like John Sheffer. And I'll really need a screenshot of you, Ian, just to send to John. I mean, he summed it up extraordinarily well. It's one of the trends that I find quite interesting is that I think it was 3 months ago, but it was 15 months ago because I've lost all sense of time. I was invited to kind of, in a sanctum of the Bank of England and their discussion on blockchain. And it seemed at that time that crypto had become a dirty word and everyone was now getting involved with blockchain. It was almost as if crypto was rebranded as blockchain. And then there were lots of initiatives, for charities, for shipping, for logistics, and blockchain became the buzzword. And it's interesting to see that as the price of crypto has gone up, the term crypto is now mainstream again, and blockchain has almost been forgotten as the technology behind Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. So that's one of the kind of like weird kind of cultural trends, I suppose. DeFi, we've set up a company, get the shilling out of the way, called Sienna Networks, and we're trying to create, blend privacy with DeFi. We're launching next month. The interest since we launched our website last week has been extraordinary, inbound from investors to the fact that we've had to really actually revalue the business, and all of which is fantastic news. So I would say DeFi, but DeFi and the fact that it's on mostly with Ethereum has had a, it's been pretty easy for people to raise money, but they haven't really delivered on what they've promised.
Look, could you just define DeFi, just for anyone listening that doesn't fully understand?
I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Look it up. Decentralized finance. Sorry to be rude, Catherine, but you have got a better chance of finding out about it if you research it yourself than hearing a slightly discombobulated version from me. Everything about crypto is basically decentralized finance, and we want to be able to, I want to give Ian £1 for his screenshot, and I don't want anyone to charge me 8 pence to do so. So that's the world that I live in. I don't believe in particularly centralized anything. You know what I mean? I don't even believe in centralized Zoom. This is the biggest Zoom call I've been on, and my brain is already fried because I can see 15 pictures of people I've never met before. It's essential kind of mind fuck, to be honest. But when it comes to kind of anything, we get on fine as a species, right? You know what I mean? 1-to-1, we get on. Most of us aren't racist. Most of us aren't sexist. Most of us kind of re-educate ourselves when it comes to the needs and the diversity of other humans. If I'm in a cafe or in a restaurant and someone asks me to pass the salt, I don't say, off you go, give me a £5 and I'll pass you the salt. I'll give you the salt. We do acts like this of kindness all the time, and I have stolen that from a book. But I think it's a pretty good idea of how, as decentralized species, we're perfectly fine. we've had centralised governments for years, and none of them have worked particularly well, whether it's left or right. And we have centralised financial systems where the man on the street or the woman on the street is the one that's been the one that suffered, because you've been either excluded from those, you know, trades or deals, or you're ripped off because you're the little person. You know what I mean? So my belief in Bitcoin and other similar protocols is, you know, anything that's decentralized is great. I don't give a shit what price it is, and I don't think that Elon Musk gives a shit about what price it is. You know what I mean? There's a lot of wealth wrapped up in Bitcoin that people aren't spending because they, you know, they want to hold on for dear life, or, you know, they expect the price of Bitcoin to go up. I think there's some form of stat that everyone who's invested, 99% of people over the last 11 years who've invested in Bitcoin have made a profit. I'm not interested in that. You know, I don't think Elon Musk is interested in that. He wants to unlock crypto so that all this money that's wrapped up in scared of regulation, or wrapped up in scared of taking money from an exchange, and banks not accepting crypto companies, and all of the impediments to its growth. Musk is smart enough to know that he wants people to buy his products with Bitcoin because it unleashes a new form of payment. And as you alluded to earlier, with, you know, the much discussed rumors about Amazon and Apple getting into this space, they're also the same. You know, there's a lot of money that's being held on for dear life, and they want to take it off us for dear life. So we start spending it. And there's also, you know, and I think there should be a trend towards a bit of philanthropy here. You know, everyone is talking about how much money they've made and how clever they are, and they've traded this and traded that. You know, I read somewhere this week that there's a kind of charity where when you get your vaccination jab, you know, you give money to the NHS to say thanks for the jab. You know, I know you pay for it for your tax and all that stuff. And there might be nice to have a similar trend that whenever you take some money out just below your capital gains tax tariff or whatever, you have to give 50 quid to a family in Manchester that can't survive on, you know, are desperate to get 20 quid extra, you know, in the dole or whatever they call it nowadays. You know, so I'd like to see less greed. I'd like to see more, you know, more sharing of people's kind of crypto investments. And I'm pretty certain that crypto's payment, which has kind of disappeared from its original reason, is likely to come into the mainstream, maybe not this year, but certainly in the years to come.
Sure. So would it be fair to say that you see crypto as democratic and fairer? Would that be a good reflection of your view?
Well, I think that was the ideal of it. It's like anything else, you know, the internet was supposed to be a similar place, and we've seen what's happened to that in the last 20 years. It's become a place of terror, not so much a place of, you know, democratization or equality. That's the danger, you know, that it could become like that. There's lots of illusions too. Crypto is at the stage of, you know, the internet in 1998, when I was a trainee IT journalist for a computing magazine. You know, I didn't understand what this thing was, but I knew that it was going to change the world. And that was me coming back from 20 years traveling and being a hippie, you know, and getting my first job at the age of 37, for God's sake. But I think this is going to change the world, and I think that you have to kind of understand it, or you have to know about it, not just to make money. You know, there's kind of data that the reserve global reserve currencies last for about 100 years. Before the dollar, there was the British pound, and depending on what century, I can't correlate them, is that the Dutch guilder held sway for 100 years, the French franc held sway for 100 years, the Swiss franc held sway for 100 years. We are clearly coming to the end of the time of the dollar as a reserve currency. And to me, it's also just as clear that Bitcoin will be the reserve currency for the next 100 years.
Fantastic. And yeah, I think there's lots of people that are excited about that. So look, I know you're talking on a very social level, which is fantastic. I think a lot of the work going into community coins is interesting. I personally think, I mean, obviously our intention is to use our community coin, which is the Dacxi coin, for funding tech companies. I can see people on this call that I know have long-term philanthropic intentions for their wealth, which is fantastic. But I think you'll see a lot more community coins. It makes sense to me if you want to do up the village hall and everyone in the village goes and puts into a local type of token, that makes perfect sense to me. So look,
Absolutely.
I know you're talking on a social level. What do you think will happen to the retail market? So I know you're talking about it being like the internet. What will the average Joe in the UK get from crypto this year?
My kind of bad example of this is that I was living in Sussex, and I was in a pretty dire cafe, eating dire fried food, and there were two builders, and no disrespect to builders, but weren't the smartest guys in the world intellectually, I would say. And one of them said, "What's this about Bitcoin then? You're involved?" And I basically sold a bit of Bitcoin the next day, because I thought, if it's going mainstream, there's going to be all types of, people that have got no idea what it is. And if people start to talk about it, it's a bit early for it to be mainstream. I don't know what you mean by retail. I'm probably
normal people, not institutions. I mean, average Joe, having a bit of a dabble in it.
Yeah, well, I think that it's a lot more secure than it was. Sure. I had 163 Ether stolen from me 3 years ago. I used all of my troops and all the people I know, black hackers, white hackers, grey hats, grey caps, whatever. Everyone I knew is in the business to try and get that money back. And I wrote a piece for the BBC about it, saying, BBC journalist idiot loses 25 grand. And don't kick a man when he's down. There are a lot of trolls there going, what an idiot. Well, the whole point of the article was I was an idiot, you idiot, not that I'm bitter. But that 163 Ether last week was worth about 320 grand, not 25 grand. So just call me a loser and all that stuff. When the price of Ether goes down, I'm kind of quite pleased in a weird way, even though I'm invested in it with the company that we've just set up. So I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was more than the average Joe, or more than the average retail guy, person. And I got stitched up and turned over. So the good news, I suppose, for retail is there's a much more secure environment now to not lose your money. As long as you're half sensible, there is know your customer. If someone tries to nick your money, it's going to be a lot easier for them to be found out than it was for me 3.5 years ago.
So on-chain analysis and that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for retail, as you describe it, I think that there's going to be increasing interest. If you're getting 0.1% from your bank, and I disagree with you, but if there are going to be negative interest rates in the budget next week, why wouldn't you look at something, even if it was as volatile as hell itself? Why wouldn't you look at other ways to make your money? If you've got the Fed printing trillions of dollars, if you've got the UK trying to pay back bills from 2018, and God knows how much it cost them, the Spanish flu, they're probably still paying that back 2 years after the end of the First World War. This is weird capitalism and money. It's weird that we're paying back something for 100 years with bonds and all that stuff. I find the whole thing fucking weird, excuse my language, and I've never understood money, and I've tried to understand money, and I've tried to understand currency and what it is and how we use it. Is this a currency that Janine over there, hello Janine, because she listened to me talk nonsense here, we might have a chat later, we might do business together, or Steve or David or Jay or, well, obviously Dacxi, or Kirsty or Brian or Trevor or Dennis or Andy or Craig or Alan, The currency might be that this call might lead to us being friends, or it might lead us to doing business together and making introductions to each other. So I understand currency. I just don't understand money. I don't understand money. And I'm also a VC. I'm a venture partner at 7BC in the Valley in London. God knows why they got me involved. I hate money. I don't want money. I just want human, decentralized experience and fun, not possessions.
And so I suppose really you're, in making that decentralized, you're taking away the control. The control lies with the people that have it. And that's why I think crypto is so interesting. So look,
well, I think it's dangerous for those who have power. Those that have, if you think of like Wall Street Bets and what they did with, can't remember the name of the company, Game Stop, I think it was called.
GameStop, yeah.
You know, suddenly this collective of 5 million Reddit users becomes the biggest hedge fund in the world. That's brilliant. That's amazing because they're able to, because of apps like Robinhood. You know, we haven't been allowed anywhere near these institutions because of the walls that have been set up around them. And you probably know that better than me. I mean, I'm sure there's a load of people on this call that know that better than me. But let the common man or let the common woman have a go, right? You're going to see revolutions here from people that don't want to give up their power. And you saw that when Robin.
Right. Yeah, sure. And look, the SEC, it was very interesting to see the SEC's take on the GameStop debacle. I think we'll see that play out over the coming months. But look, certainly, I think crypto does share wealth. We're one of the few businesses that talks about crypto for wealth, not trading, because obviously every other exchange is trading. So look, I've got one more question that's popped in. I've had a few questions pop in, but brilliantly you've been answering them, which is weird because you can't see them. Do you have any prediction for, I'm sorry, you're being doorstep with this one. Any predictions for the price of Bitcoin for the rest of this year?
I just think there's going to be fluctuations. It's going to go up and down. People are going to get scared. Traditional holders of power are going to diss crypto. As soon as it goes down, they're going to say, told you so, and everyone's going to get scared and all that stuff. 99% of people who've invested in Bitcoin have made a profit. So that's what I think will happen to the price. It will go up.
Brilliant. And what a great note to end on. Thank you so much.
It'll go up to 100 grand. Yes.
Very good. And I know the options market is pricing that likelihood in as fairly strong. So look, thank you so much. Yeah, about 50-50, which is fantastic. And I think most of the predictions are between 100K and $300,000. So interesting times. So look, Monty, you are a veteran of the industry. You have a very unique take. So I really appreciate you joining. So thank you very much. Impressive beard as always. So look, thank you so much. It's great to have a different take. So
thank you for the pleasure. I'm looking forward to hearing the next person.
Oh, thank you. So let me go back to this button here so I can introduce our very lovely Ed Ludbrook. So I'm sure for lots of people on this call, Ed Ludbrook needs no introduction. Like Monty, he's got some very strong views, so we thought we'd leave him till last. So most of our people have got a glass of wine down them. Obviously, no wine for Ed because it's breakfast time in New Zealand where he's calling in from. So for those that don't know him, Ed is a futurist, educator and entrepreneur. He's had 3 decades of writing and speaking all over the world about the future of financial opportunities, and his books have sold more than 2 million copies in 20 languages. If you ask him nicely, I think he's got some spare copies knocking around in the library behind him. So currently he is founder and CEO of Dacxi, considered to be the world leader in the emerging crypto wealth sector. He's been in crypto for over 5 years, which for the crypto industry makes him one of the grandparents of crypto. If you get the chance to buy him a beer once we're allowed out to drink beer and he's allowed to fly in from New Zealand, he can talk to you about the really early days of the industry when the entire global industry would fit in one small conference room. And he got to spend time with people like Vitalik, who of course created Ethereum. So Ed, I know you've been talking for a number of years about crypto adoption and price growth. And I know that most of those predictions, if not all of them, have come true. So over to you. You need to unmute yourself probably and ask to reflect on your thoughts on what's happening right now, please.
Oh, look, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Catherine. I just want to put a special shout out to both Ian and Monty. Look, not only do we as an organisation appreciate the work that you do, but your perception of what's happening, very different perceptions, are delivered very individually, I must say. The good thing about it for us is that people relate, because our great challenge is always to be able to communicate what are actually some, let's be honest, some very similar concepts. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like, where's the market going? Up. It's going up and it's going to jump down 20% and then go up by 10% and then down 5 and then up 25. But if you draw a line over 12 months, we all think it's going to go up. So there's no real rocket science there. Look, for those of you that don't know me, whilst I'm a good old Kiwi, Yes, I went for a swim in the swimming pool this morning. Yes, I'm going to see a heavyweight boxing match with about 10,000 people on Saturday, which is not a normal thing to me. It's the 10,000 people that I think you guys are is a little bit different, but it's also, look, I certainly feel for the situation. You know, obviously, I'm on pretty regular contact with what's happening in the UK, and it's really, you're at that point where it's sort of, you know, White Cliffs of Dover and singing as everyone sort of gets together and gets through this. Look, for us, I don't really want to talk about Dacxi at all. I'd like to talk and explain a little bit about the thinking that went into the sort of strategic market thinking that went into what we're doing. I want to introduce to everyone a new slide, actually. Picture paints 1,000 words. A new slide that is fundamental to the thinking of what we're doing and how I see the market. And so this is the first one that we use just to explain that all industries grow in waves. And we had this first pioneer wave, peaked in 2017, obviously corrected aggressively in 2019 because there wasn't the intrinsic market demand to support the prices of the crypto market. And then as we expected, there would be a period of developing the confidence, the systems, and those sort of things in the marketplace, which has resulted now in this market boom. And this market boom is driven by natural market confidence and the introduction of the institutional side. I've called this wave often the professionalization. And trust me, I've been involved in this business all across Europe and Asia. And some of the things I've seen and heard over the last 5 years are surreal, but they don't surprise me. I've been involved with a lot of new industries, and what relates to the UK is that for me, I was in the army for 8 years and then left the army in the 80s and then went to the UK like a lot of Kiwis do, and arrived in 1987. I joined a city firm on the day of Big Bang. If you remember, in October 1987, there was a big storm, which was the start of Big Bang, and I started in this investment bank in the city in a new area called proprietary trading. We did this new area called derivatives, and people wondered whether it would ever take off. Okay. This enormous now industry measured in hundreds of trillions of dollars. But in 1987, I can tell you what, in the investment banking world, it was a good idea. We had to deal with a lot of the sort of financial things around it on, computer spreadsheets. When I think of the valuations we were putting on our derivative products, it was surreal, but the market obviously evolved and developed. And for me, that then went on to, I remember in the mid 90s, and they said, hey, look, we're going to deregulate telecoms and utilities. And through that, I looked at that as an opportunity, because not through the technology, that is telecoms. Because everyone in telecoms talk telecoms. And for me, I looked at it for the actual customer of telecoms and realized that for the average person to switch from BT to taking a new service that provided the same sort of telecoms, telephone services as BT, for you then to switch and use another supplier and get the same product but at a cheaper price, I knew the market was never going to do that. And I knew that the best way of doing it is to have someone talk to each other. And so I co-founded and led the creation of a company called Telecom Plus, which is better known as Utilities Warehouse. Have you ever heard of Utilities Warehouse? So, look, when I created Utility Warehouse in 96, 97, and put it on the stock market, we did the first ever idea-based listing on the stock market. It's obviously now a FTSE company. People thought, what a weird thing to do. And it's like when I looked at crypto a few years ago, I didn't look at it through the lens of technology. And that's what you need to do, is not look at it through the lens of technology. You have to look at it at what the use case, what is the customer, what is the problem that you're solving for the customer, what is the new opportunity that you're creating. And when you do that, it allowed me, a few years ago to look at Bitcoin not as some sort of, I didn't get emotionally carried away in the, let's destroy the banks thing. It was all about, hey, look, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time just to send money overseas, yet it's digital. So we can send an email instantly, yet money takes 3 days and costs 25 quid either way. Do you know what I mean? Does everyone understand what I just said? Those simple things are the reasons why you can add the value. When you think about the hassles of protecting your money against all this inflationary stuff, so buying gold or silver or whatever you do as a store of value, the action of buying gold or silver is expensive. It can cost up to 13% of the money that you spend. It's a real hassle. And so any technology that allows you to solve that has huge potential. Trillions of dollars worth of potential. So for me, I saw that, and therefore when people go on and on about how I thought it was, I think it's bullshit, there's no things behind it, I didn't give a crap what they thought. Okay, I just went, you don't get it yet. You'll get it, but you don't get it yet. And so this wave that we're currently riding is the one that really is going to attract the masses over the next couple of years. But it does get to a point whereby when Bitcoin, whether it's in 2 or 3 years' time, whatever it is, I can imagine that sort of time frame when it's gone past $100,000. Hey, look. And there's some of you like Gavin and Ben and David will sort of know that when people used to ask me about a price vision for Bitcoin, I'd say $100,000. I'd explain why. If you said $100,000 now, people would laugh at you, but it was only $4,000 before. Now it's 50,000. And so it's not the sort of vision, but so, now we can talk 250,000, but, I struggle to believe $1 million. So when it is $250,000 US dollars per coin, the whole investment value of this thing goes. And so for us at Dacxi, like years ago, I looked at this space in 17, and as Catherine said, I was early enough and out there enough that I got to sit and chat to the guys who are really the pioneers behind all this technology. And a lot of the CTOs, the actual technical guys, but not just that, just, also global CTOs, chief technology officers of blockchain IBM, blockchain Microsoft, blockchain on a whole string of companies, Toyota. And so I got to chat to them about where this technology is going and how it could be used. And what I realized was a couple of things. Number one, the way people interact with crypto, the public, is wrong. Most people in those days, and still, which were traders. And if you know anything about traders, and I used to be a professional city trader, like the public, the professionals make money and the publics lose money. But everyone else, simply through their confidence, they simply don't interact with it very well. So it becomes a punt. You have a look at the the FCA research on the crypto industry, and you see the small amounts of money that people actually put in it. They don't treat it like a wealth area. And so that's what, for us, that's what I think will be the big evolution. One of the big evolutions in this space in the UK will be the changing of looking at crypto as some sort of lottery ticket to one as like investable asset class. But to do that, you need to have the sort of education and stuff that we do at Dacxi. We think we do it the best. We certainly do it larger than everyone else. You know, we're growing. Actually, Catherine, we've done, as a company, we've done more business in the first 7 weeks of this year than we did all of last year. Not just the first half, I'm talking the whole of last year. It's been crazy, and it's because I think we provide that support. But looking further, and this is what I just want to show you. Can you see the other slide? This is a slide which explains where I think crypto is really going to go. And so this current cryptocurrency wave that you can see, you see the blue one? Everyone see that? The blue one? So I can imagine it having a value up $5 trillion. I can sort of talk $10 trillion, but $5 trillion is still a trillion. Okay, it's still a huge number. But then the next evolution is this tokenization of assets. So it's as actually Ian, referred to, it's the tokenization of major property. It's the tokenization of attractive assets. It's the tokenization of bonds and lending, and of specific interest to us is the tokenization of crowdfunding. And what that offers the masses, the crowd, are a whole new range of investment opportunities, which when you look at the numbers, it's literally in the tens of trillions. And that thing that I show there is really underestimating the potential. It's just going to take time, and the public, the retail public, which is our focus, are going to need a hell of a lot of support. And it's a space in the wealth industry that the other wealth organizations are just not set up to handle that. And you need a specialist, and that's our vision. So that realization, that graph I drew in June 2017. And with that mentality that the public need their support, okay, which is why we're unusually designed as a company. It's why every country is an individual organization, because the regulatory requirements to be involved with these sort of products with the public are much harsher than what the FCA do today, which is why Dacxi, we're spending so much money on as Catherine will confirm, on compliance consultants, lawyers, to implement, to have a level of regulatory oversight by the FCA that no other similar crypto company is doing. And it's just because that next wave is the one where people can buy the sort of top level assets today and know that there is a steady stream of new investment opportunities that will last for the next 10, 15 years. And this evolution is cool. And we, as to agree with Monty, look, our model is weird because we decentralize the ownership of our global platforms, because I have no interest. I don't want to be Zuckerberg with a big headquarters somewhere. Who gives a crap about that? If you really want to change the world, you have to give it up and know that by adding value to the world will give it back. Okay. And that sort of alternative view in the world is fundamental to Dacxi. It's fundamental to empowering the people. And that graph that you can see there, that is the key. Those are trillions of dollars worth of value. And in the UK, for us, it's a matter of, we have to do the effort. We've had our head down for 18 months just educating the public. Now, through the great efforts of Kevin and Catherine, You know, as a company, we're getting really good and getting, you know, people are talking to us about talking to the space. But, you know, for us, that graph is a revolution. That graph holds in it the opportunities for everyone to be able to transform their wealth, because having more wealth creates security, it creates confidence, it creates a different mindset. And for us as a company, we want to do this all across the world. But, you know, we have a specific passion for the UK. I married a Brit. I was actually born in Hastings, if the truth be known. That doesn't mean I'm going to follow your English rugby team. But the point is, as an organisation, that when you look at the future, what I want you to appreciate is that you should ride that cryptocurrency wave. You've got a couple of years of really attractive growth. You know, sell a car, put it in blue chip cryptos, okay? Because this wave is good. But just to understand that after a couple of years, you need to switch out of those assets into the new emerging assets, and we hope to be able to support you there. So I don't want this to sound like any sort of advertisement. So the key thing, if you understand these things, I just want you to get excited about the future. We certainly are. Catherine, if you want to get rid of the slide, I'm happy to answer any questions. No, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Schoolboy error, it's been a long day. So sorry, I have one question come in, which I don't think you can see yet. So using gold or any transaction as an example, we all pay fees currently to purchase or indeed move crypto. Do you think fees will reduce as adoption progresses? I know Ethereum's under some pressure right now for gas fees. So what's your view on whether those will reduce? Being polite. Do you think those fees will reduce as time goes on?
They always do. They always do. I just look. Hey, look. When I think of, like, we're involved. You know, we have 6 offices around the world. We have European licenses. We have European banking. Look, as Ian says, banking for us, you know, for anyone in crypto is a total nightmare. You know, you end up with banking fees. You end up with transaction fees. Look, you know, the one thing you know about technology is that people will innovate and they will attack pricing. So, you know, Ethereum really has to get its act together to ensure it reduces those fees. But Ethereum 2 is coming through at the moment. But the whole area of tokenization, if you imagine, you know, don't forget, every football club is going to is already starting to tokenize their incentive. Their incentive communities. You know, Juventus and those guys Barcelona are already doing it. So imagine every football club, the world of tokenization, every share in the world is being tokenized, which doesn't sound like a weird thing because you live in the UK. And with all due respect, have a look at the map, okay? The UK, you know, is this tiny little island as far as the world is concerned, and which I know that's cocky coming from a country that half the maps in the world don't even bother putting on, all right, where we have more sheep than human. Like, I know all the jokes, right? But, you know, the world, there's 100 million people in Thailand, okay? And it's just the world, it's a big, big, big world, and the opportunities for tokenization, and then just the sheer volume of transactions are such that the fee potential is such that it's driving, as you know, it's driving Ethereum prices and fees, driving Binance coins, it's driving Cardano, it's driving Stellar, it's driving all of those guys. Now, there won't be a lot of winners out of that space, but the winners are going to be grinners. They're going to be huge. And look, for us, guys, you know, if there's a gold rush, okay, be the company selling shovels. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And you will see a transformation of the crypto industry this year. There'll be, when the London Stock Exchange starts launching things and the major banks. So don't forget, the last couple of weeks, you've had Mellon, Citi, Goldman's, Deutsche, all talking about their crypto platforms. Those guys, they only do things because their clients are saying, hurry up and sort your act out. They're not doing it because they love us. Okay, they're doing it because the money in it. Cool.
Thanks, Ed. So look, thank you so much for speaking, Ed. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, so thank you very much. So I'm just going to share a final screen for a few closing remarks. Come on, PowerPoint, don't let me down now. We've been talking all afternoon on it. So look, I just want to give a couple of closing thoughts. Obviously, there's been some really different styles of speakers. They've all got slightly different takes on the world and life in general, but I think a lot of overlap in terms of it being a very positive year for crypto overall. And look, my opinion is that crypto in the last 12 months or so speaks for itself. I think we're probably about a year into crypto in the UK. So you take mid-March, when I think in the UK we kind of realized crypto was a serious situation, to now. Bitcoin is up 627%. Ethereum's up nearly 1,000%. Litecoin's up 100%. So I think it's proven it's COVID proof and here to stay. So look, I personally think crypto will be the rails on which the world will run. There's been a few mentions today about comparing crypto to sort of 98 sort of dot-com boom. I actually think crypto will make the dot-com boom look like chicken feed. So look, a huge thank you to all our speakers that have made their time available. Massive thank yous to all of you for spending your evening with us. A huge thank you to those that drove traffic to this session. We will circulate a recording. So if you had someone that you think will appreciate it, if you just give us sort of 12 to 18 hours to format this session, we will send it to you. So have a great evening. I hope you found the content interesting, and do follow us on social media. See you soon, guys. Good night. Thanks a lot.